The FBI releases chilling video footage from Nancie Guthrie's doorbell cam. King Charles backs British police in investigating his brother's Epstein ties. And Super Bowl athletes may be going home in the red due to the California Jock Tax. I'm Daily Wire executive editor John Bickley with Georgia Howe. It's Tuesday, February 10th. This is Evening Wire.
The FBI has released chilling video footage from Nancie Guthrie's doorbell cam. Daily Wire reporter Lyndon Blake has the latest on the case.
The footage shows an armed, masked, and gloved individual with a backpack and a gun tampering with the camera, seemingly attempting to put foliage in front of the lens to cover it up. The timestamp of the footage indicates the suspected intruder spent approximately 41 minutes in the home before Guthrie's Apple Watch disconnected from her other devices. The public is encouraged to review the footage FBI Director Kash Patel posted on his social media accounts and submit tips if they recognize anything about the individual, including clothing, gait, or the backpack. The number to submit tips is 1-800-CALL-FBI.
President Trump plans to repeal an Obama-era finding which served as the legal basis for a clampdown on emissions. Daily Wire senior editor Joel Needler has more.
The 2009 endangerment finding concluded that 6 different greenhouse gases pose threats to public health and welfare, serving as the basis for the EPA's tightened restrictions on emissions from power plants and automakers. Trump's plan to repeal the finding will help relax restrictions in what EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin called the largest act of deregulation in the history of the United States. Administration officials noted that while restrictions on automakers would be relaxed, nothing at this point will change for power plants and other industries.
The FDA announced a major shift in food labeling rules. Companies are now allowed to label foods as including no artificial colors as long as the dyes used are derived from natural sources and are not petroleum-based. The agency says this is a concession to manufacturers who are trying to move away from synthetic dyes and will make labels clearer for consumers. FDA Commissioner Marty McCary said this about the decision.
Removing artificial food dyes from the U.S. food supply is not a silver bullet that's suddenly going to make our children healthier, but it is one important step, and it is one set of chemicals that just doesn't make sense.
The FDA also approved beetroot red as a new food color and expanded the approved use of spirulina extract. Officials say these steps will encourage safer alternatives and improve the overall health of the U.S. food supply, while still holding manufacturers responsible for color safety and purity.
A former police chief says Donald Trump thanked him for investigating Jeffrey Epstein back in the mid-2000s. Daily Wire culture reporter Megan Basham has the details.
The former chief, Michael Ryder, says he received a call from Trump in 2006 in which the now president stated, quote, "Thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this." The information comes from a now public 2019 FBI document when Ryder was interviewed regarding his role in the earlier Epstein investigation. The document goes on to state that, quote, Trump told Ryder people in New York knew Epstein was disgusting. Trump reportedly went on to say of Ghislaine Maxwell that she is evil and to focus on her. Ryder, who was a central figure in the investigation of Epstein in the mid-2000s, went public in 2006 over his displeasure with the prosecutor's decision not to charge Epstein directly at the time.
King Charles said he will support the British police in investigating his brother, Prince Andrew, on new charges. The latest tranche of documents appears to indicate that Andrew may have shared confidential material with Epstein during his tenure as the UK trade envoy. Andrew is just the latest British elite to face scrutiny from the documents. Former ambassador to the U.S. Peter Mandelson resigned from the House of Lords last week after files showed he leaked market-sensitive information to Epstein in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney is trying to cool tensions after President Trump threatened to block the opening of a new international bridge between Canada and the U.S. Daily Wire reporter Tim Pierce has the details.
The newly finished Georgia Howe Bridge links Michigan and Ontario, but Trump, via a Truth Social post on Monday, called for Canada to grant the U.S. a 50% ownership stake, or he, quote, will not allow this bridge to open. Trump tied the bridge to broader grievances, including Canadian trade policies with China, limits on U.S. dairy imports, and Ontario's ban on American alcohol sales in government liquor stores. Carney said he spoke to Trump on Tuesday after seeing the post, telling reporters this.
We discussed the bridge. I explained that Canada, of course, paid for the construction of the bridge, over $4 billion.
Carney also said that Michigan already holds an ownership interest in the Georgia Howe Bridge and that U.S. steel and labor were used in its construction. The $4.6 billion project, started in 2018, is slated to open this year to ease congestion at the busiest land crossing in North America.
The internet remains divided on Bad Bunny's halftime performance. Daily Wire assistant editor Andy Valdez has the latest.
While the legacy media largely praised it as a celebration of Puerto Rican and Latin culture, President Trump blasted it on Truth Social, calling it, quote, one of the worst ever, adding, quote, nobody understands a word this guy is saying. Bad Bunny's selection for the show has been a point of contention for several months, particularly after Bad Bunny's comments denouncing ICE at the Grammys. Scrutiny intensified Monday when an English translation of the lyrics circulated online, revealing extremely lewd sexual content. Congressman Randy Fine of Florida posted on X that he intends to contact the FCC about the violation, saying the, quote, broadcast would have been pulled down and the fines would have been enormous had the lyrics been performed in English.
This episode is sponsored by Brickhouse Nutrition. You've probably heard about those weight loss injections that everyone's been talking about, and for good reason. The results can be pretty incredible. They work by helping regulate blood sugar and keeping your appetite in check. But here's the thing. Not everyone wants to deal with weekly injections, especially when you start hearing about some of the side effects that can come with them. That's where Lean comes in. It's a weight loss supplement developed by doctors, and people are seeing some really impressive results. The ingredients in Lean are backed by research showing that they can help lower blood sugar, turn stored fat into energy, and reduce those constant cravings that make dieting so hard. This stuff is no joke. I am one of those people that eats sometimes a lot when I'm stressed. But once Lean came into the picture, I was able to rein in my cravings. Let's get you started with 20% off and free rush shipping so you can add Lean to your healthy diet and exercise plan. Visit TakeLean.com and enter WIRE for your discount. That's promo code WIRE at TakeLean.com today.
The Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks are in for a hefty California tax bill following their win on Sunday, but it might be even worse for the New England Patriots. Daily Wire assistant editor Nathan Gay has more.
Each Seahawks player will receive a bonus of $178,000 as negotiated by the NFL Players Association, while Patriots players will receive $108,000. Both Super Bowl teams are subject to California's notorious Jock Tax imposed on out-of-state professional athletes, which will tax both respective teams on income from the 8 duty days spent practicing and playing in the Golden State. Stanford University finance professor and Hoover Institution fellow Joshua Raw commented on the numbers, sarcastically complimenting California's tax system for ensuring the, quote, incentive to win is maintained by taxing the Super Bowl loser more than the winner. He said, quote, if his team wins, Darnold will receive $178,000 and pay $249,000 to California in taxes for his time here, losing $71,000. If his team loses, he gets $103,000 and still pays over $235,000 in taxes, losing $135,000.
Doorbell camera Ring is facing unexpected backlash over their Lost Dog Super Bowl commercial, which sparked fears about mass surveillance. Daily Wire reporter Amanda Harding has more.
A Super Bowl ad from Ring doorbell cameras, meant as a warm-hearted innovation for locating lost pets, has sparked online backlash over fears of dystopian surveillance. The ad highlighted a new feature from Ring, a subsidiary of Amazon, which utilizes the network of cameras in a community to theoretically help locate lost dogs. Ring highlighted that since introducing the feature, an average of 1 dog per day has been found. Social media users, however, quickly noted the possible downside of all doorbell cameras being used for surveillance. Many called the technology creepy, and one noted, quote, this is a huge problem disguised as a solution. While the idea of locating a lost family pet may be appealing, the response from the public highlights an ever-growing anxiety among Americans at the prospect of a world where anyone in any place at any time could be caught on camera.
A federal judge is poised to decide whether President Trump can move forward with his $400 million White House ballroom, which was funded entirely by private donations. Daily Wire reporter Brecca Stoll has more.
Judge Richard Leon, presiding over the lawsuit brought by the National Trust for Historic Preservation, has questioned the Trump administration's reliance on corporate and individual donors, many which have business ties to the federal government, such as Amazon, Google, and Palantir. Watchdog groups argue the fundraising exploits disclosure loopholes and raises corruption concerns, but the administration insists the funding method is legal, authorized by Congress, and even spares taxpayers the cost. Leon has signaled that we could see a ruling as soon as this month.
Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick appeared embarrassed in front of the Senate Appropriations Committee on Tuesday. Lutnick was asked about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein after Justice Department files revealed the two were in contact in 2012, years after Epstein's conviction on a child sex charge. Here's the Commerce Secretary being grilled by Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen.
I think you understand the root of concern here. It's the way you described very emphatically your first encounter with him in his apartment, said you were disgusted, would never have any contact with him again. Did you, in fact, make the visit to Jeffrey Epstein's private island?
I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation. My wife was with me, as were my 4 children and nannies. I had another couple they were there as well with their children, and we had lunch on the island. That is true, for an hour, and we left with all of my children, with my nannies and my wife, all together. We were on family vacation. We were not apart. To suggest there was anything untoward about that in 2012, I don't recall why we did it.
War Secretary Pete Hegseth says his department shares the blame for big delays in the defense industry. Hegseth told reporters Monday that the War Department has been a bad customer when it comes to clarity about what the department wants.
The way we do business, we've been impossible to deal with. A bad customer who year after year changes our mind about what we want or what we don't want, and then we make little small technological changes, which makes it more difficult for them to produce what they need to produce on time. So we have to fix our own house first, provide clarity, simplify the system, allow more people to access it, give that steady demand signal.
The Trump administration has been increasingly critical of defense companies in recent weeks. The president signed an executive order last month pushing major manufacturers to reduce stock buybacks and dividend payments and invest more in domestic facilities. All right, those are your drive home updates. To learn more about these stories, go to dailywire.com. In case you missed it earlier today, we covered some major stories, including the latest on the Epstein files, J.D. Vance making Armenian history with a high-profile visit, and the Chinese government sentencing a prominent pro-democracy voice to prison. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow morning with another full edition of Morning Wire.